Well, hello. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and let's get into it. Because I can see I know many of you are like, oh, this has got to be clickbait. With the hashtag 23 challenge, me claiming it's a lie and it's a good thing. Well, just stay tuned, okay? Um, Today we're going to go into the history of, it's not very long history, of the hashtag Dungeon 23 challenge and everything that has to deal with. So this morning and afternoon or evening, whoever is, whenever you are participating in it, the hashtag Dungeon 23 challenge is a challenge for this year for all of you out there who have been um, maybe stuck with an idea you've had in your head. It's a writing challenge. It is a challenge to get your creativity motivated and to maybe even start becoming a content creator out there. Now, some of you may be thinking like um, these challenges are tend to be common. 30-day challenges, 1 year challenges, writing challenges. And every year there are certain one-page RPG challenges and things of that nature. But there's something about these challenges, and I see you guys in the chat. Uh, there's something about these challenges. There's an underlying reason behind them in terms of why they exist. So first, let's go into a little bit of history. All right. So here I am. I'm, I love to participate and listen to and consume other people's content. So here I go. I'm watching this guy, right. Oh, wrong finger. This guy right up here, Questing Beast. And I'm listening to and watching one of his videos. For guys, if you don't know, I'm a letter carrier, so I've got him in my ear and I'm listening to him. He's talking about this Dungeon 23 challenge. And he explains that it's this every single day you are going to write a room. You're essentially going to make a 365 room mega dungeon. Well, of course, he got this information from, here we go. Let's see if we can share this to you. He gets this information from this guy. Now, you may not be able to see it, but all the information is linked below from Sean McCoy, who is an indie small pub creator who created Mothership. And Mothership, the creator of Mothership, posted this on Twitter. And it basically says this: mega dungeon for 2023, 12 levels, 365 rooms, one room a day, keep it all in a journal. All right, let's do this, right? Luke Gearing, let's do this, right? And I think this is completely amazing. I think this is an amazing idea because the beautiful lie, I'm calling it a lie. That's a little bit harsh. But the beautiful thing about this is that for those who think this is daunting, for those who think this is impossible to do, for those who think this is a ridiculous project and fold their arms and walk away, the initial idea of creating a mega dungeon for a year, that's not the purpose of the challenge. The purpose of the challenge, it's a bullshit detector. It gets rid of the weeds and lets the garden grow. For people who immediately see something like this and go, fold arms, this is stupid, I'm not doing it, I could never, without taking that first step, you've already told yourself that it'll never happen. But the point of these challenges is to push you past that line. Much like this channel's been dead for over a year and I'm back and I'm like, you know what? I need a kick in the ass. And that's what these challenges are for. It's not really about it's not really about completing the challenge. It's all of us getting off of our mental asses and start producing material. Now is a perfect time, with one D&D being very controversial, the changes to the OGL, which affects me as a small content creator, extremely small content creator, both physically selling things on drive through RPG and making videos. And it's like, yeah, I need to get back into this. I really do. Thank you, everybody. Jared, named by the namer. Wayne Barr, Wayne, Rick. Yeah, long time. Sorry, I'm confused because I'm rather excited about this. All right, one of the, I'm going to say, problems with the Dungeon 23 challenge that people bring up is that if you literally write this as the challenge is explained, one room a day. Has it been 2 years? Yeah, it's been 2 years. So the challenge, one room a day, 365 rooms, big mega dungeon, and I'm done. Of course it's going to be ridiculous. Of course it's going to not make any sense. Of course you're going to write yourself into a a dead end. You're going to put ridiculous things. Yeah, it's crazy how people think that if you follow the challenge by the rules that you're going to make something coherent. It's not possible. Creatively, you guys are better than you think you are. There's no way you'll follow this challenge by the rules to make something coherent. And that's the point. All of you out there that are creative know automatically when you see this challenge that there are unwritten details in there. Well, how big are the rooms? Where can I make them? Do they have to be rooms? There's already a growing hashtag movement of hashtag city 23, hashtag hex 23. There are people who are making worlds that are every day there's a different world or plane of existence they can go to, whatever. That's the whole point, is to like myself, brush off the cobwebs, try to, as all of you that are taking part in this live stream that happens at 6 o'clock in the morning, Eastern Standard Time. All of you that are taking part in this, maybe getting ready for work or it's a holiday or something. Yeah, that's the point of these challenges. And listen, if you only follow this challenge for the first 3 months, because everyone knows when you have these 30-day challenges, 1 year challenges, that people will fall off. If you just follow this for 3 months, that's 90 rooms. 90 rooms up there. Oh man, yeah, I'm guys, allow me to thank all of you towards the end. If you've got to go before I get to the end of this, and it'll be about, let's give it about 20-minute video, maybe a half an hour or so. I'll definitely give you a better shout out. But for right now, let's thank you very much. So let's get into this challenge, all right? Now, one of the aspects of this challenge that has been brought up is that if you're being if you are stuck for an idea, you have writer's block, you have too many ideas and you don't know what to write down. The suggestion is to create an empty room. Now, like I said before, oh, it's 10 p.m. Yeah, time zone's crazy. So some people have a problem with creating an empty room. Wow, 4 a.m. An empty room is a bit of a lie, okay? Because if you're creative, all an empty room is nothing but a placeholder. An empty room in role-playing games is never an empty room. It's never an empty room. The purpose of creating an empty room is to give you a place to link back to after you've already been in the challenge, to go, hey, I included a Medusa. Guess what? My empty room now. No money icons there. Wow, 4 a.m. You guys, thank you very much. Thank you. I'm actually surprised anyone actually came into the video, but thank you so much. So the idea of creating an empty room is to allow yourself space for creativity. Not right now, not today. Today's the second day. Second day, you may not have an idea of exactly what you want to create at all. But the empty room that's a place where you get to lore dump. You've got a great idea and you're not sure exactly how to leave clues. Guess what empty rooms are for? Empty rooms are for you to brag about your creativity with everybody that you expose this challenge to. Right? An empty room is essentially a great place to lore dump. Was this mountainous dungeon, a place where the great dwarven kingdom once was, but they've been eliminated or kicked out, or they just suddenly disappeared mysteriously. It's the perfect time to put it in an empty room. Empty rooms are not empty rooms. Empty rooms have objects and things. It's exploration writ large. Give the players a reason to explore this space, and also to go back to these rooms that might have a safe haven. They may have secret or concealed doors. I know many of you are may not even be familiar with the difference between a secret and a concealed door, but really all of these things are um, ways for your imagination to grow. If you are looking at this challenge, this Dungeon 23 challenge, one room a day, 365 days, and going, yeah, that's not enough structure for me. That's exactly the purpose of this challenge. The challenge itself is not important. What it is, it's exercise. Um, every year after the new year, you hear about New Year's resolutions. And one of the main things are exercise plans, especially here in the States. You're going to see tons of commercials and advertisements about start exercising, running, lifting weights, getting healthy. But this is a mental exercise. The idea is every day, take a notebook. Let me grab a random notebook that sits in front of me at my desk. Grab a notebook. I have these hanging around everywhere, and you're bored. You don't know what to do. The idea is to take a notebook, take your journal, take what use your Google Docs, whatever the case may be. Take that, write something down, put it down. Whether it's even if the line is uncertain, empty room, and you put it down, be willing to place that down and push it away. One of the things about being a writer, and a lot of us world builders, listen, I suffer from chronic world builders disease like everyone else. One of our problems in being world builders is that we don't write enough to excise the worst writing we have in us. So, in other words, when you hear about writers and directors getting work in Hollywood, and we tend to we chastise them for being the worst writing and like, oh man, they made this movie and there's plot holes all through this movie or television show, or the writing is terrible, or the dialogue's terrible, and we go, man, how did they hire this person? One of the major reasons why terrible writers get consistent work is because they're constantly writing. Period. If you are someone who's willing to pay someone to do work for you, you need an example of what they do. And one of the reasons for having a challenge like this is not to write a room a day, it's to get in the habit of writing every day, to be creative every day. And now maybe you can't be creative every day, but at the end of every week, maybe during lunch breaks, maybe you assign yourself every Wednesday and Sunday, but it's to blow past your writer's block. It is to commit to something, even if it's just writing one word down or one line down. This is an empty room, and leaving it alone to come back to it later to go, you know what? I'm not going to waste my time with my terrible idea. How about I just write empty room and leave it alone and come back to it when I feel rejuvenated? And that's literally what this challenge is about. It's not really about making a mega dungeon. Now, will you end up with a mega dungeon if people follow this to the end of the year? Of course. You're going to make a mega dungeon at 3 months, 2 months, 5 months, right? Yeah, just like Harry says, it's a placeholder. It's the whole point is to promise yourself, to make a promise to you to invest in your creativity, that I'm going to make an empty room and later fill it up with something. With something, anything. Like I said, this is an idea for you to to spooge all over your mega dungeon with all of your lore. Some of your players, with the advent of fifth edition, exploration isn't really a high priority. But man, if you're able to weave in your lore into all these empty rooms, about the history of the place and the motivations and the factions. And um, I'm going to get into the idea of mega dungeons not making sense. This is the empty rooms are actually the perfect places for people who think mega dungeons suck to prove to everyone else how they don't suck. I hear you, Wade. I hear you. Now, here's another thing. There's some naysayers out there, not many, but some of them are vocal, saying that like the idea of a mega dungeon itself doesn't make sense at all because you need clean water. And I'm talking a literal dungeon, levels, underground, giant creatures in small rooms, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't make any sense. And they'll point out, well, you need clean water, and you need to place need places for waste, and you need air, and all these things. And here's my challenge to them: make a mega dungeon that makes sense. All of those empty rooms, fill them with warehousing. You know, those the dark elves you have in your that have taken over the dwarven hold in this mountain, and you have, instead of going down levels, you're actually going up levels. Maybe there are warehousing and slave quarters and prisoners and waste disposal and a narrow tube to allow air to flow down into the deepest reaches of, and then maybe there's something that controls temperature and all of these things here, right? That's the purpose of the mega dungeon, to instead of folding their arms and going, I could never, make that first move. It's in my job. I remember when I first started, this is 30 years ago, mind you, that one of my mentors looked at me and he's like, hey, have you ever eaten an elephant? Yeah, do you know how to eat an elephant? And I was just like, what does that mean, eating an elephant? And his point was, when someone presents to you an impossibility, hey, let's go climb that mountain, let's eat an elephant, let's dive down to the deepest reaches of the ocean, let's do when I taught, listen, I've got some weight on me, but when I taught martial arts, I used to challenge some of the young students and say, hey, today we're not even going to practice martial arts, we're just going to do 1,000 push-ups. And one by one, people go, what? I couldn't, that's impossible, this is stupid, blah 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 blah. And the mindset of already defeating yourself before you've taken one step is the purpose of these challenges. It's to go, yeah, I don't see myself doing 1,000 push-ups. I don't see myself climbing that mountain. I don't see myself holding my breath and diving to the deepest reaches of the ocean. I don't see myself making a mega dungeon. I don't see myself writing something for 365 days. But you can take one step forward. You can take one step and go, yeah, I'll go to a dollar store. Well, here in the U.S. is like $1.25 and more. But anyway, you get my point. Get yourself a cheap book. You get an ink pen. Open up the first page. You start numbering the pages by the dates. 1/1, 1/2. When it's like June, it's like 6/23, whatever. And you start numbering each page and writing something down and being able to flip back to it and go, I'll try it. Maybe at the end of this, you won't make a mega dungeon. Maybe you'll make 52 7-room small individual adventures that you have for $1 a piece on Drive Through RPG, that eventually you hook up with someone who's a great layout artist who puts all 52 dungeons together, and you weave it together with some kind of narrative, and it becomes your magnum opus. And we are punished because we don't get to see it because you didn't take your first step. All of you guys out there, you may think that you're not very creative. Maybe you think you're tired or stuck. Like myself, I've been going for 2 years, and I've I've just been burnt out, not from gaming, but actually from actual work, not having enough time. And I go, you know what? Nah, I'm making an excuse for myself. I I can still do this. I need to still do this. It's still part of me. So um, guys, I'm going to get into the live chat now. Thank you very much. Let's give some shout outs to people here. Scrolling back up, thank you, by the way, name by the namer, very first person to put a comment in the chat. Thank you very much. JP, of course, who created the Discord server. Believe me, if you're following this channel and you've subscribed and you're finally seeing, like, after 2 years he's back, we'll get into doing some Discord stuff. I've got some great ideas to benefit the community that you guys have created for me. So I really thank you for that. Harry, Rickard, of course, everyone around the world, Blue Toad, who I'm not familiar if I know you by a different name or not. Whatever. Wayne, of course, all you guys. Now, um, JP mentions in the chat, like, you know what doesn't make sense? Shopping malls. Why would exploring a dead shopping mall not be the best and logical thing to explore? Hell yes. Hell's yes. And listen, there's the mega dungeons are a little bit ridiculous. Let's be honest with ourselves, right? Mega dungeons, but the rules of our classic role playing games, I'm talking OSR up to 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, they lend themselves to the rules of living in a dungeon, of being in a dungeon. The the reason why a gelatinous cube is a cube and gelatinous is because it fits into a dungeon. Dungeons used to be 10 by 10-foot squares, and the purpose of that cube was to slide through these hallways and not see it and get stuck in it, or it would be down in a pit, and all these things. Rust monsters were created because they fit into dungeons. And so a lot of the rules, despite the fact that there are, as role playing has expanded, that there are far less dungeons and far less dragons in them. To be honest with you, the idea that a mega dungeon actually makes sense the way many of the rules are written is kind of strange, but it's actually true. So, when thinking of your mega dungeon, if you change your mind 2 weeks into this writing process, so what? You changed your mind. Maybe you start out with like 14 days of ridiculous rooms and you crumple it up and throw it away and say, I'm going to start over again. you this isn't punishment. You don't need to stick with your ideas. The purpose of the challenge itself is to weed out BS. It's to weed out it's to confront the thing in your mind is telling you you can't do it. Now, I'm not saying that there's something wrong with you if you don't participate in this specific challenge. Not at all. I'm saying challenges in general are designed to get people to make that first move. So back when I was teaching martial arts, part of getting a black belt is giving back to your dojo. So in teaching martial arts, when I would say we're doing 1,000 push-ups, my point was not to do 1,000 push-ups ever. The point was to test the mindset of the young people to say, but you haven't even given me one push-up yet. You don't know how far you're going to get. I know that you're better than you think you are. And if you think you can only do 3 push-ups, I'm going to ask you to do 4. And sometimes when going back to my Hollywood analogy, when there's a Hollywood executive, they need to find writers, and the only people they have examples of are 5 writers with terrible writing and a 6th one who's probably brilliant but has never done anything, doesn't have anything to show. They're going to hire one of those 5 terrible writers and go, well, at least you're writing. At least I can trust you. At least you're being productive. Fine. Here's some cash. Go ahead and make me a movie. And in our with 1D&D public play testing, new rules, there are people who are literally saying, hey, the OGL is changing, it's not going to be the same. The RPG community fracturing slightly, people diving back in, new rejuvenation for the OSR movement. The purpose of these challenges is to say, don't throw your hands up and give up and then walk away from role playing itself, but to say there's new avenues for us to be creative. We don't need WotC. We've never needed WotC at all. Um, never needed them. And us being creative, polyhedral dice with numbers and random generators is a thing that you can't steal that from people. Our books are already created. All the 5th edition books are printed already. If you have PDFs, they're already on your computer. It can't be taken back. But what we can do is be a community that produces material. I've trolling around, trolling. I guess I am trolling and lurking for people who are engaging in this Dungeon 23, City 23, Hex 23 challenge, some of them are going, oh man, I'm going to write this for Mothership. I'm going to do this for science fiction, my science fiction RPG. I'm going to do this for all of these other role playing games that they have. And the purpose is awesome. Can you imagine at the end of 2023, in the beginning of 2024, the number of Kickstarters that are going to happen, the number of mega dungeons that are going to be created for all these other role playing game systems? Um, it's pretty amazing. So, anyway, getting into the chat. Yeah. Oh, man. Oh, okay. Blue Wayne says Rust monsters always struck me as silly, especially wandering around an empty dungeon. Yeah, yeah. You would think rust monsters would create like mineral deficiencies after a while. But yeah, they were just created just to destroy equipment. They were Gygaxian. There's a ton of Gygaxian monsters out there. The That's why there's a joke about the rust monster, the mimic, the gelatinous cube. But there were others. There was an earwig monster. If you listen to doors, it would hide in keyholes, and it would, if you put your ear against the keyhole, it would dig into your ear. That was a classic monster. Rock grubs was a classic monster because they would infest dead bodies, and when you went to flip over dead bodies to go through their stuff, they would grab onto you, and you had like 6 rounds before they burrowed to your heart and killed you. There were a ton of Gaxian creatures. My definition of Gygaxian creatures being monsters that only exist for the sole purpose of feeding on adventurers in dungeons, and they have no other reason for existing except to confront adventurers in dungeons, which makes you think like is that a real ecology? you know um Wayne's like, exactly, they'd be better hanging around natural mineral deposits. Rock grubs were awesome. Puts fear into players. Absolutely. That was the whole purpose, right? And like you said, like rock grub, excuse me, rust monsters would definitely be like hanging around mineral deposits, just like, oh, this is great. Everyone's all the dwarves having iron deficiencies because the rust monsters keep breeding or something. That'd be pretty silly. Bluetooth mentions when Ghost Town Living was exploring the abandoned mine, I got huge Dungeon Delver vibes. Yeah, that listen, as kids, I remember the fear, but the excitement of going into empty places, like places you weren't supposed to be. The echoing of the sound, the the spaces that were were designated for a function that no longer exists, and you got to see the debris, the leftovers, and in your mind you're like, what was this place for? Was it an old warehouse? What was it, a an old factory? I remember when I first got my job, which I've been at for 30 years, they had a hiring spree, and it was at a empty building that was called the Bulletin. The Bulletin was a newspaper. For you young folks, we used to read papers. Anyway, it it went out of business, and so they used the empty building to give a test to become part of the postal service. And they had all the old news clippings, and it's this old building of writers, and it was amazing. Even though they cleared everything out, it was amazing to see like notes and other paraphernalia of like a writer's room, classic writer's room, where you just hear people screaming over these cubicles at each other about developing these news stories. And it was, to me, I think it was awesome. Deadman says the hashtag Tower 23, a tower with one floor for each day, is inspired by the Tower of Babel. Absolutely, absolutely. And listen, the challenge has very few rules. It's strangely enough, creativity is difficult on a blank white sheet of paper or parchment or canvas. But when you start to limit yourself and tie yourself in, like Deadman said, Tower 23, can you imagine creating a tower that each level, 52 levels maybe, for each week, or maybe a 12 level tower, 4 distinct areas on each floor. So then you're creating barriers for your creativity to think your way out of it. How do I create this infinite tower or whatever, this 52 level tower? It's got 7-ish rooms on each floor. How do I manipulate this to make it make sense? Or maybe it doesn't make sense. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, when he says disease in general has almost no impact on modern playstyles, also too easily overcome. Yeah, yeah, that's a fifth edition thing where there's a lot of easy buttons. It's unfortunate because it's unfortunate that it has become a an example of one of the largest styles of play as opposed to just one of many styles. Uh, Keeping track of rations and your ammo, needing to find a place to a safe haven instead of having just a simple spell to protect you, needing to wondering if your character will ever get lost or something. The survivalist games, fear, Call of Cthulhu, losing sanity and such, is a style of play that isn't as widespread to the masses. Those of us that are deep into it, we already know all about this, but yeah. Um, yeah, Blue Toad says Watsky is cracking down on third-party content creators. Yes, AJ Pickett just announced he'll stop covering Forgotten Realms lore and game mechanics since the new OGL terms might cause legal issues. I was going to make my first video about this topic, but I figured I'd do something a little bit more positive. Um, Even though I'm being a little clickbaity with the challenge is a lie idea, in the sense that the challenge, this 23 challenge, is more than just writing a dungeon. It's basically getting our minds going, the gears moving. But as a person who's benefiting from being a third party creator in my very small way, the changing of the OGL is an issue. And honestly, I think some of you are not going to like my reasoning for my opinion about the changing of the OGL. And I'll say this, um, it's our own fault. And WotC owns Dungeons and Dragons. Hasbro owns WotC. WotC owns Dungeons and Dragons. They own Wizards of the Coast. They get to do with it. It belongs to them. It's whatever they do with it, despite whatever opinion I have, it's their property. Now, just because the kid in the field is pissed off and doesn't want to play football anymore, and it's like, I'm taking my ball and going home, we can be mad, but the ball belongs to them. So I can't be upset about that. I can't challenge someone if it's their right to do with what they own to do with it. That's whatever. I think of it like small communities where there's one business that hires everyone. Here in the US, if you leave a major city and you start driving along and you see these lonely towns, and what'll happen is you'll see a big mega structure. It'll be flat, big warehouse of some sort, Walmart, and some place that makes auto parts. Here in Northwest Ohio, Central Ohio, we have a Honda plant, and it hires. Honda here is huge, but we have a lot of other industries. But in these small towns, there's one employer, one single employer, and when that employer decides to go, you know what? I know a cheaper place to build a warehouse to get twice as many people, to pay them less money and get more work out of them or whatever. And we're leaving and it dries up and it kills the whole town. And why? Because they have one industry. Unfortunately, Dungeons and Dragons has always represented one industry, and we are linked to that. Well, we are emotionally linked to that one industry. And honestly, they get to do whatever they want. So does that mean it's going to kill third party creators? Probably. Does that mean it'll hurt financially? Yes. Does it mean the OGL is going to have these hard restrictions and I've got to give them my information, my financial information, and my hard work in brand making a brand, Cobalt Press, and come on, guys, you guys know third party creators, Cobalt Press, Paizo. Oh man, there's so many going on in my head right now. I'm live and I can't think of any. Some of your favorite third-party creators, hell, Sly Flourish and Questing Beast, and There's so many of them that we love. Will it? Could it kill their industry? I mean, kill what they're doing. Megagate Games, is that one of your favorites? Monty Cook, all those guys. It will behoove them to disentangle themselves, including myself, from only WotC's OGL, to become their own brand and to exist outside of that. If some of your favorite largest content creators out there in the sphere have YouTube channels and they do YouTube shorts, they've got Twitter, they've got TikTok videos, they sell merch, they have a blog, they do all of these things. Why? Because they need to diversify. And it's our fault being mono thoughtized, focusing our creative energy down one path and not expanding ourselves into. I'm picking on them because that's the only name I have. Cobalt Press, not making things for Monty Cook's cipher system, not making things for producing products for Call of Cthulhu, not making things for maybe teaming up with MCDM, Matt Koval and Cobalt Press, and I don't know, what is it, Dimension 20, or having all the other, all their woo, blah, 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 having all of the other third party creators come together without WotC to create their own game system. Like, for example, you guys know it's been 2 years, but um, while very little, I helped contribute to the Level Up Advanced Fifth Edition books that came out through N-World. Literally, I have physical copies of a fifth edition ish clone written from the ground up. Monster book, adventure and class book, and Dungeon Master's Guide, the Trials and Treasures book. Right now, sitting in my room, I don't need fifth edition any longer. So I think it's our fault for having focused so much of our creative energy with one contributor rather than diversifying ourselves. So anyway, you guys have mentioned um, uh, Blue Toad mentions that hope they make the terms more lenient in the future. Yes, I think the fear as a creator is the ability for the company to change the OGL underneath creators. That's the part that especially high value third party creators don't want. You don't want, if you and I get into a financial contract, the person creating the contract, you don't want them to have the ability to change that contract on you midway through that contract. And that is that's a scary thing. Wayne says, I'm unaware on how it affects anyone making under 75,000 K annually. The effect is twofold. One, like I mentioned before, the OGL changing underneath someone while they're being creative. And like me, I'm well under 75K. I probably annually would go 2,000, 1,500 or something. But also, it also begs the question, as a creator, let's say I have a Patreon and I get super chats and I sell t-shirts and everything because I talk about Dungeons and Dragons. Does that count towards the yearly money revenue that I create generated off of talking about Dungeons and Dragons? Does that count, or does it mean I'm only things under the OGL? It's a little fuzzy at the moment. But the second thing, for people under 750K, one of the issues about that is growth potential. So while someone may reap the rewards, let's say they make $10,000. So that's under there's like a 50,000 cap, and then there's a 750,000 cap. So it's well under that. And that person may say, I'm perfectly fine and content being here. They don't want that goalpost to move. So if more people are creating content on, say, around 500,000, what if they move the 7K, 750K down to $500,000? That's the fear. And the other fear is fear, and I understand why Watsy's doing it. They have absolutely every right to protect their brand. What they don't want is someone going out there creating a product using Dungeons and Dragons as a label on their product, and um, it casts Dungeons and Dragons in a bad light. Let's say it mentions terrible things. It mentions sexual assault and slavery and pedophilia, blah 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 blah. Even as a descriptor, they may go, you got to pull this book off your shelves. We're, as a third party, and a third party person's like, yeah, but there's a label step right on the front that says adult only, and Watsy may go out, we don't care, pull it, right? That they're going to protect their brand, so, and they have every right to do it. We may not like it, but whatever. It's, we'll change. So Errant Dragon says, it'll be interesting to see if Watsy tries to rescind the 1.0, yeah, or 1.0.a versions of the OGL, since those specific versions have it that they can't really be rescinded. Yeah, the 1.0 OGL, and actually there are OGLs before that legally can't be rescinded, which is how N World created Level Up 5e. And continuing with Aaron Dragon's comment, Level Up is more of a 6e because of how much extra is added to the base 5e chassis. Exactly. And I can imagine Matt Koval, Critical Role, Cobalt Press. I'm picking a Cobalt Press for some reason. Who are some other third party creators going out there and going, dude, the OGL exists right now. Let's make our own system created under the 1.0 or 1.0a, as Level Up was created, write it from the ground up, let it exist, and then be done with Watsy, period. And then modify their own system, just like Paizo did. Yeah. Anyway, Ricker says, I have a moral question in the spirit of this challenge. Would it be cheating to use AI-generated rooms and images for each room? Ooh, you know what? That's another theme, talking about AI-generated art, writing. What is it? Chat GPT or something's the biggest one. Midjourney, Dolly, diffusion, something stable diffusion. Yeah. Well, honestly, it wouldn't be cheating. And as a quick off the top, I think if you use it as a generator and you use it to fuel what you want to do, then I don't think that's cheating at all. I think if you wholesale copy and paste what a chat bot and an AI bot created, then yes, I do think that's cheating. I think it's not cheating if you go, wow, I'm on level 6 and I don't know what I'm going to do. Type, spew something out, and you go, oh, that's a great place to start. If I change this, I modify that, I do that, then I don't think that's cheating. It might be easier versus someone doing it with a blank page, but sure. Wayne says, someone, maybe an RPG pundit, said you'd be surprised how little IP they actually own. Yeah. There's, unfortunately, having a singular intellectual property to base your business off of is pretty dangerous. It's pretty dangerous. Very dangerous. It's just like Star Wars is an IP, and there were a ton of Star Wars writers that wrote novels that they just tossed away. So, yeah. JP says, working on my Dungeon 23 right now while listening to your musings. I'll make a DBJ room. Please turn me into like a Medusa or like a Predator or something like that. Got to get the dreads. I mean, I want them alive. Maybe they have like a reach of 10 feet. Go and snatch people up. Maybe like a Hydra or something. I don't know. That'd be kind of cool. JP says, I would love Paizo 5.5e take on 5th edition release. Lightning in a bottle that strikes twice. Oh, shit. feel too. That would be freaking awesome. Could you imagine Paizo goes, yeah, let's see if we do this again. Yeah, that I guarantee you they've thought about that. I guarantee you they thought about that. And honestly, they've got the creativity to do it. Despite the fact that I'm not a Paizo second E person, and I'm not really big into it. Just because of money. That's really it. They're pretty damn creative over there. Yeah, yeah. Name by the Neighbor says it could affect a lot of people who do Kickstarters and funding as well. Plus, I don't want more people looking at my income or having my bills and vice balls. Yeah, I know. You know what? Name by the Neighbor makes a great point here, saying it could affect Kickstarters. So literally, it's possible for you to sign the license for the OGL because you have to sign for it. They know who you are, which means that they can review. Probably the purpose of that is to review what you're doing. Now, why they want to review it? One way could be, hey, we'd love to hire you to do something that we'll never do in the first place. Or the hiring process could be, sorry, not hire, the the process of finding out why you're doing what you're doing could be for them to track, will it negatively affect our brand? But they could kill a Kickstarter before it gets started. It's very possible for a company to put out 5 Kickstarters. Watsy says nothing. 6th Kickstarter goes out and goes, nah, you got to kill it because we have plans for that. And unfortunately, the plans for that might be, we have 0 plans for that. Oh, you're making a Dark Sun. You're going to make it a Black Moon equivalent, Dark Sun-ish game, and it's going to compete with our Dark Sun that we have in the pipeline 5 years from now. Nah, you got to kill it. That's a possibility. I don't know how much legally they could prevent you from still doing a Kickstarter that they tell you not to do, but that'd be fucked up though. Uh, mm, mm, mm. Let's see. Name says, I like AI to inspire, but it can be a crutch if you're leaning on it. But number one, have fun and make it the way that will keep the ball rolling. Hell yeah, hell yeah. And Ricker says, to clarify, I would have to wrangle the AI to actually produce something that works. Yeah, it might sound good, but this isn't so much AI and PI. Yeah, brute force intelligence. Yeah. There is the AI controversy. We should talk about that because is an AI scraping intellectual property without permission, is that equivalent to the human brain or not? Because our human brains, no matter how accurate we think we are, when we look at something outside of ourselves, it's never the same when it comes in. Take a look at the comments on a popular movie and the people's reaction to that popular movie. It's not universal, but an AI can absolutely positively scrape with accuracy someone else's writing and creativity and then dismantle those pieces to create something else, as opposed to the human brain, which exposed to the same information is filtered. There's already a filter there because we are already imperfect. And I think our imperfection and interpretations are would be considered different than an AI, if that makes sense, right? Um, Rickard, you're so right. RJ says, did they learn nothing from the Pathfinder incident? Exact. Did they learn nothing? Pathfinder is a competitor of theirs, and Paizo created it literally because they stopped the OGL when they went in the 4th edition. That's exactly right. Did they think it was it was because we allowed them to use it? So if we don't. So did they think it was just because we allowed them to use it? So if we don't let them do stuff, it won't happen again. Unfortunately, not only are you correct, today, like what World did with Level Up, there are multiple avenues for people today, right now, and I guarantee you they're probably working on it, to create 5, 6, 10 different 5th edition clones and have them exist, and WotC could do nothing about it. It's very possible for that to happen. Um, do you think Matt Colville isn't thinking of having his own gaming system, his own rules modified slightly? Do you think that um, some other someone give me some other third party content creators that are pretty big out there, like Cobalt Press or something? Because I keep picking on them. But do you think that they don't want to do that? Of course they do. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like Bluetooth says, you're thinking of Cobalt Press because they've been making some of the better stuff, my dude. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And here's a very strange. Sometimes our difference between corporate sponsorship and ownership and the community, creative community, is this. Okay, we know that third party creators are creating things that WotC will never ever create. They would never do it, right? We know this. They would never create the products that are coming out. But WotC looks at it as, an example would be Critical Role. Critical Role was known that they're one of their they made $14 million, not profit, but they drew in $14 million from their live streams and other revenues of money. And WotC looks at that and goes, how can they create 14? How can they generate $14 million and we not get a part of that? The problem is they would Hasbro. I'm going to call it Hasbro. Hasbro would never create Critical Role in the first place, so that's money they would have never gotten. You see what I'm saying? Like, from our point of view, we're going, you want a piece of the money, but you would have never made that money on your own. The only reason that money is being made is because these third party creators are producing it and publishing it and promoting it, their brand themselves. You would have never gotten that energy yourselves because you would have never done it, right? And I think some of that, not issue, but that conflict, that's where businesses come in conflict. Why there are people who are anti-capitalist and real capitalists are going like, why do you hate this? It's not, capitalism isn't a race, right? Some people think of capitalism as starting line, gun goes off, you run around the track. It doesn't work that way. What happens is it's starting line, gun goes off, and the people running around the track are armed with baseball bats and nets, and they've hired people in the stands to throw rocks at people. Like, not only is it about making money, it's keeping other people from taking the money you would make, or what is it? You want market share, right? Every automaker wants more market share. If they could shut down a Tesla, if they could shut down a Ford, if they could shut down a Fiat and shut them down, a Honda, and take them out of the market, that means more market share for everyone else. So it's not just about business-wise, it's not just about people producing something. It's either you need to pay us or you need to stop doing what you're doing, and it's crazy. Aaron Dragon says Critical Role is making their own system. Yeah, yeah. AJ Pickett, hey, dude, what's thanks for stopping by, man. I was just we end up talking you up a little bit. We talked you up a bit. I would love to get on a. I would love to be on a panel with you, my man, AJ. But we were just talking. We're getting to the end of this live stream, by the way. But we're segued from the Dungeon 23 challenge into talking about they got me. They got me into talking about the WotC and OGL, and I was saying basically, long story short, that it's kind of our fault. It's our fault as a community for using a singular IP as our livelihood, and it's wrong. But yeah, oh yeah, yeah. We will talk. We'll do that. Yeah, and I'm willing to do nearly any time frame, dude. But the other thing about talking about the OGL and being creative and things of that nature is that at Red Dice, hey, what's up, man? Oh man, thank you guys so much. But my reasoning is that I feel like this terrible incident is a good thing. Strangely enough, I think this one D&D OGL changing, Hasbro coming in. I think it's great. I feel like Hasbro is the Tarask that finally showed up, and we need to level up to fight it and go on our own. Like, I feel like as messy as the Hasbro Tarask is stomping around the RPG community and getting us all riled up, I think can make us stronger. It's much like how the OSR community is kind of, as disparate as the OSR community is, they're also tightly knit, if you understand what I'm saying. And I feel like this is the next generation of the, I don't know what to call it. I don't know what to call it, but I don't know. Will we be included in the OSR? Will this be another new thing? I don't know. But if Critical Role makes their own rule system, if MCDM, Matt Colville makes his own rule system, Colville Press makes their own rule system, all these guys, if I would love to see them get together, make one system, and then each of them branch off of that. I would love that. And honestly, one of the biggest success stories in this issue is is the cipher system, right? It's really a cipher system. I mean, Monty Cook has created one of the most expensive RPGs, the Ferrari of RPGs, and is still going strong. Yeah, the D20 doesn't belong to anyone. The rules do. The rules for 5e do, but everything else, no. Um, Wayne says, I call WotC woke on the coast, and I've been losing interest in them for a couple of years, even as I get back into gaming. I don't play 5e. You know what? A ton of people don't play 5e. And who is it? Sly Flourish's channel? He took the challenge of running Dungeons and Dragons, air quoted, without using only third party material. Okay. And he's mentioned on his channel plenty of times. Watts treat WotC just like any other third party company. Yep. Yep. Aaron Dragon's Cipher system is fantastic. Yeah. Bluetooth. Yeah. AJ says we didn't really know what we were standing for until we all knew what we were against. Exactly. Exactly. I feel like not WotC, I feel like Hasbro doesn't understand or doesn't know how to monetize the creative energies that you guys have. And for those who don't know, AJ Pickett, Red Dice Diaries, and others that have come into this chat are excellent content creators. You have to check them out. Please do me a favor. Don't leave a like, share, or subscribe for me. Go to them right now. Go over there. Go ahead and do it. Just bump them up, man. Just check them out. But my point in that is I don't think they know how to monetize community creativity. I don't Hasbro has IP and they make money off of IP. They don't understand that Critical Role is about personality. They don't understand that Matt Colville is a brand that a lot of these creators of Dungeons and Dragons, the Monty Cooks and other writers that have oh thanks Wade. Yeah, Monty Cook and other people that have left Dungeons and Dragons are a brand unto themselves. And Keith Baker is a brand unto himself as a creator, and I don't think they know how to equitably monetize those individuals to say to them openly and honestly, you know what? Unfortunately, you're using some of our intellectual property. We should get a cut of that. But in return for that, we will promote you using our platform that is global to promote you and what you're doing. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think Hasbro has the intelligent bandwidth or not bandwidth, not intelligence, socioeconomic bandwidth to go to Cobalt Press and say to them, we're going to hurt you, but we're also going to help you. We're going to hurt you by asking for how much money you make and taking a percentage off of you. But in return, we're going to put you and promote you on platforms that you may not have access to. And yeah, I don't think they can do it. Rickard says, I feel like I have to create a channel or something now to fit in with this crew. Well, you are absolutely welcome to. Yeah, hell's yeah. Mm-mm-mm. Watson and Hasbro are both being managed by former Microsoft digital creators now. Yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't know who's there, and like Rickard says, I can't get in the cipher system. I think the point is choice is good, competition is good, and if Cobalt Press, I'm just making this as an example, if Cobalt Press made their own rewritten top to bottom own game system that is in parity with fifth edition, and then they stop making fifth edition stuff, how many people will only play their materials, right? Just like Cypher System, not everyone is into that. It's a D20 system. Not everybody can get into it. It's not their cup of tea, but it still exists. And it's still an option. Just like right now, there are many people who are going, yeah, I don't play fifth edition any longer, but with very minimal effort, I can take all of my old Dungeons and Dragons stuff and use it in a Swords and Wizardry, in OSE, in Maze Rats, in and go on and on and on. Knave and uh, Beckme and BX and et cetera, et cetera. Right? So I don't know. See, and AJ makes a good point. Oh man, I would buy their product just to check it out. Cobalt Press has earned that from me. Listen, I've backed Kickstarters of things I know I'll never use. And it may sound foolish, but there's some creators out there that are like, yeah, I'll pay for that. I'll buy that. I'll support that. I'll promote that. Not because that one product, whatever product that is good. It's because I know despite this product that I don't want, they're going to make other stuff that I do want. There's just some people out there that are just like, yeah, I like what they do. I might not be into what they're doing right now, but in the past, in the future, hell yeah, hell's yes. Ghostfire Gaming, I finally came up with another one. Ghostfire Gaming has personalities. They do a podcast. They talk about different subjects, and they get Ghostfire Gaming. Would I promote Ghostfire Gaming even if it's something that I don't want? Probably, yeah. Yeah, Red Dice says, I'm the same with Mary Mushman, who did Knock. I pretty much back everything they put out. Exactly. I don't know if they even know. I don't know if Hasbro knows how to do that. I think the people hired at WotC do, and they're caught between a rock and a hard place, pleasing us and pleasing their benefactors. Yeah. What does it say about me that I just now noticed DBJ is wearing a Captain America shirt? Oh yeah. Let me see if I can get this out of here. Yeah. It's I yeah, he's one of my favorites, and I'm going back to the comic book stuff. Mm-mm-mm. Choice is good when it's real choice, and this is what Rickard says. And let's face it, the choice is mostly what you can get players to want to play. Ooh, shots fired on that one. Ooh, that's a burn. Yeah, you can buy 17 game systems if your players only one are willing to play only one of them. Yeah, ouch. Yeah, yeah. AJ's like, the Hasbro versus Creator Civil War war storyline has begun. Yeah, I'm not as doom and gloom because there's too many creative, brilliant people in the community to let it stumble and fall. There's too many, like for example, digital platforms. There's too many digital platforms out there. VVTs, VTTs, virtual tabletops. People that are coming up with new ways to engage with the rules and make side turns around. Listen. There's some slick ass people out there that are brilliant. They'll figure out a way. I think Hasbro may be underestimating the power of one individual on their computer. Oh man, what's his name? Runehammer created ICRPG, the index card RPG. That shit is he ended up there's like 5 editions of it, hardback. I've got I think the 4th edition of the game. It's been promoted by Modifius. Boy, I'm probably spouting terrible information. Um Man, there's people into that game. He's got a cult following. So there's always a place for all of us. But anyway, we've gotten past our hour. I thought I would only be here for 20 minutes. For those of you that have stayed this long, please like, share, subscribe to myself and other small content creators out there. I've been on a tear to find We Are Legion. The index card RPG is amazing. It's got an old school OSR flavor to it, but it is amazing. It just breaks down it's very in your face, breaking down like cre- uh, adventure creation and things. It's I think you'll enjoy it. I think you will enjoy it. Ever since you created the like a 1 page D4 system, yeah, yeah, you'll enjoy it, AJ. Easy D6, yep. Easy D6 is another good one. And look, created literally out of personality, right? It is Modif. Thank you, Dragon. Edie says it's Modifius that's put out the latest ICRPG edition. Yeah, you could get the 2nd edition on Amazon. I like that one more. Oh, really? Hmm. I doing a little summary, going back a little bit, talking about the hashtag Dungeon 23 challenge that was put out. Check out Questing Beasts. Check the links below. The Twitter by Sean, the Twitter post put out by Sean McCoy, who created Mothership, and the video created by Questing Beast, and it's kind of spread like wildfire. My conjecture was that the hashtag Dungeon 23 challenge of creating 1 room a day, 365 rooms, in and of itself is a bit of a lie. It's of a misnomer. The whole point of the challenge is to get us off our asses and be creative. The challenge itself, yes, you can take the challenge. I am. Uh, oh, my book isn't. I meant to have my book right in front of me. But the whole point is to take a book, start writing in it every day, create 1 room, make the next room, make the next room. If you follow that course, it'll probably not make much sense. But creatively, despite the fact that that challenge doesn't make sense, is the whole point. It's for us to go, no, in my head, I see myself making a hex crawl. Or in my head, I don't see making literally a 1, 2, 3, 4, 12 level dungeon that goes underground. I see myself climbing a giant tree. Or I see this as making one 7 room adventure a week, 52 adventures, or whatever the case might be, right? See, like Red Dice says, I'm for Dungeon 23, but I'm cheating and only doing 7 rooms every weekend. You're not cheating, dude. That's my point. There are some naysayers out there that are like, it doesn't make sense. Mega dungeons suck. People are going to drop out. But the point is, it doesn't matter. The point is, for every person that refuses to take a step forward, it it's a filter to keep those people back and have the other people go, you know what, I'm going to try this. Hell, if you only do 7 days, you've got a 7 room adventure you can play with your friends and you're done, right? And maybe you weren't ever going to do that before, but today you are. Just like the idea of creating empty rooms. Empty rooms aren't empty rooms, they're just placeholders. It's just a place for an individual to say, you know what, when I have a better creative spark and I can link this back to that empty room, that's what I'm going to do. Empty rooms are lore dumps. That's exactly where you stuff your lore in there and let your players poke around the empty room to discover your expertly written lore. That's what empty rooms are for. Yep, yep, yep. Scotty McFarlane's RPG Easy D6. The man is a tabletop crafting legend. Hell yeah! It championed gridless tabletop play and inspired me to make videos. See, that's what I'm saying. But would a $1 billion corporation sponsor a Scotty McFarlane to do what he does? No. Right? Like, yeah. Yeah, it's just, and like Aaron says, I've never made a dungeon not like this. Exactly. And actually you don't have to. I almost challenged myself to do this challenge project and make it a 365 level social encounter. I may still do that. Like a dungeon that isn't really about fighting things, it's about navigating a mega social encounter. And I don't mean like three people talking in a room. I'm talking like factions and politics and uh like a web of if thens. Like if you're able to convince the Duchess, then you will have the ability to assemble something, like if of course you can take this challenge and go any direction you want to. And mine is going to be a combination of it's my first room isn't a room. My first room is a sailing craft that's turned upside down, and there's something in it and things like that. Yep, yep. Aaron says I did see one YouTuber respond by doing Hex 23 instead. Exactly. Hex 23, City 23. I like Dead Man's Tower 23. Yeah, yeah. You don't need to make a hole in the ground and exactly 12 levels down. What is it? Every week you do something. 4 weeks gives you maybe four regions of a dungeon, and then you have a place to go below. Like empty rooms can be rewards, and rewards could be safe havens, information, the a way to circumvent sections of your own dungeon. Like we can go from level 2 to level 5 if need be, or maybe a way to slip back up the dungeon to go back to an area. Hey, we're on level 6. We want to slip back to level 2, and this gives us a teleport ring or a slide tube or a ladder or steps or something like that. Red Dice says, I believe someone proposed a campaign 23. Named by the neighbor. Says DBJ says empty rooms are made for dumps. There's a joke in that somewhere. Not if it's literal. Oh man, yep. Wayne says once made a dungeon on desk blotter size graph paper. Wow, 2 levels before the group decided to finally leave. Yeah, yeah. Where do you think all those poisonous gas traps come from? Spoiled. It comes from gas station sushi. That's where it comes from. Oh man, yes, petrol sushi. I'll take 3 liters and a 2 pack, the 2 for $4 sushi. Oh man. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. Um, Eventually there'll be some more graphics and music and all that bullshit, but for right now, I took the Dungeon 23 challenge as trying to get my channel back up and running. AJ, Red Dice, anytime, anywhere, I would love to hook up. I think now as a challenge for us content creators to even get back into doing the multi-panel type of videos or call and response videos, cross promoting ourselves. I think it behooves us to get back into doing that. Not just me, but I mean reaching out to other people and saying, hey, here's small content creators, or some of those bigger content creators reaching down and going, I'd rather be broad than and you guys know me. I love interacting with you guys. Oh no, thank you guys very much for being part of the show. Thank you very much for actually just even being here, just being uh helping me out and helping me promote the channel and so you guys should have moved on by now. So yeah, I'm glad to see me back as well. Yeah, yeah, create, don't destroy. Yeah, hells yes. Hells yes. I'm still a proponent of that. I don't when I feel like when there's a challenge, and I feel like you mentioned AJ about the Civil War storyline coming about, I feel like now's the opportunity for us to work together and to create and be inspired. And I feel like this Dungeon 23 challenge is the type of thing that we need to have in our community to go, hey, like someone proposing a question. If we didn't have 5th edition any longer, WotC closed the doors, where do we go? What do we do? Do we keep going with the books we already have and PDFs? Do we focus our attention towards one content creator? Do we spread ourselves thin and go for multiple content creators? Do we, as a community of non-content creators, get together and say, hey, Ghostfire, hey, Kobold, hey, MCDM, hey, everyone, why don't you guys get together and decide to make something, right, for the rest of us? So, who knows? But don't know what we're going to do tomorrow, because I usually don't decide these things ahead of time too often. But we'll definitely talk about it. And I think I'd like to talk about the OGL a little bit more. System 23. Holy shit. How many different ways can we roll dice? We're going to do dice, D20 dice pools combined with D6s, over-unders, roll under plus roll over. That would be hilarious. They're like, I'm going to create the most unique dice system in the world. We're just going to flip coins. Paizo and OSE start rubbing their hands together. Yep. Hell, hey, listen. Like you guys mentioned earlier, Paizo already did it once. DCC, yep. Thank you. Yep. Dungeon Crawl Classics has already got that covered. Hells yes. OSE's already got that covered. Swords and Wizardry. I was trying to think of another one that's out there. What's his name? A Questing Beast. Knave already exists and it's out there, right? And these are great systems. Maybe some of these guys will put out their own OGLs for some of these systems as well, right? There's a Cypher System OGL. There are other OGL, and heck, why doesn't somebody could just send Brandish Willem from ICRPG and say, dude, put an OGL on your book so the rest of us can create stuff, even though there are people doing it already. But I'm talking about making money off of it. Why not? So anyway, guys, thank you very much. I'm going to turn the music up and blast out my ears. Thank you so much for being part of the show. And please come back tomorrow, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tabletop RPG with BBJ. Thank you so much.